Luis Arraez is, in modern terms, nothing less than an abject anomaly, a unicorn that nearly defies statistical analysis. On one hand, you have the best pure hitter at making contact in over 40 years, and then, on another, you have a below-average overall producer who's horrible in the field. This dichotomy was at its most polarizing in 2025, leading to Luis having, overall, one of the weirdest seasons we've seen in modern baseball history. We'll begin with the stuff that I consider to be good weird, and then move on to the bad later on. Leading off with the fact that he became the first player since 1980 to strike out 21 or fewer times in a season where a player appeared in at least 150 games, with the same being true of any player registering 29 at-bats or more per strikeout. That's right. Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, Ichiro Suzuki, or a host of other contact-oriented guys never managed to reach either of these ridiculous totals. And while historically speaking, the numbers I'm about to rattle off don't have as much precedent, they, to me, might be even more crazy relative to his era. You see, since StatCast was implemented league-wide back in 2015, no one has ever had a lower K percent than Arraez this year at 3.1%. The next closest, besides himself in prior seasons, was Daniel Murphy in 2015, as I can't count Tommy LaStella considering it was a partial year. That means his K percent was less than half of the next closest player, and a full percent better than his own record-setting number from the year before. But this isn't even close to the only record he claimed this season, with his out-of-zone swing and miss percent of 7.7 being almost 3% better than his prior record in 2022, and again, around doubly as good as the next closest that wasn't himself, being Jacob Wilson this past season. To give you some perspective as to how ridiculous this is, it will be the equivalent of a hitter breaking the home run record with a mark of around 140 or 150 in a season. It's not even like the same sport at that point. His whiff percent was pretty much the same story at 5.3. In fact, the only number that concerned swing and miss that he wasn't first in this year in recorded history was that of the in-zone variety, though it's not like he wasn't still incredibly impressive, considering the fact that his mark was still 4th all-time behind two guys from 2015 and Stephen Kwan from 2025 as well. Arraez has managed to turn making contact into a science, and then mastered it like no one else we've seen in the modern era. But here's the only problem. It's actually not all that valuable in the context of overall production. You see, he also has the dubious distinction of being the first player in almost a decade to register a batting average of at least 290, along with an OPS under 720, being one of only 9 guys since 2000 to do so. Again, this is with that 150 game minimum being observed. This means that a lot of his production was relatively empty, in large part because he registered very few extra base hits and a very low walk rate. Additionally, his fielding run value at first base of -4 was tied for 3rd worst among guys who played at least 750 innings, and his overall FRV of -5, as he did also spend a limited amount of time at second, was tied for 9th worst in Major League Baseball overall. This perhaps explains why his wins above replacement total of 1.2 was tied for 5th lowest among all guys who managed to play at least those 150 contests. That's right, a guy who struck out 21 times and batted .292 was somehow less valuable than Anthony Volpe. Now, I'm not making this video to crap all over the now free agent. I do think he has some objectively very valuable skills. No. It's instead more so to explore how unique of a skill set that really is, with 2025 being the most extreme example he's managed to produce so far. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day.